Hi, Stuart Bruce here, and I am the Spare Time Property Investor. In these podcasts, I'm going to share tips, tricks, and lessons that I've learned and will hopefully help you, especially if you're still working the 9 to 5. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spare Time Property Investor podcast. Today is an interview episode and I'm joined by Lewis Crompton. He is a property investor, but he also invests in Forex and other financial trades as well, including cryptocurrency. So if that's something that interests you, hopefully you'll enjoy this episode. And if you do, please share it, please like and subscribe. It all helps to spread the word, which I really appreciate. But not wanting to waste any more time, let's get to the episode with Lewis Crompton. So thanks again, Lewis, for coming on to the podcast. First off, it would be fantastic if you could introduce yourself and let us know what you're up to in property and the other investment types you're an expert in.
Well, everything I invested, I'm not necessarily an expert in. I'm an expert in a couple of them. But yes, in terms of property, I've been doing property now for 5 years, just over. Makes you feel very old, and I've done most strategies other than rent to rent and service accommodation. Anything where you own the property, actually own it, I've done those strategies. And I hate HMOs, but I really like buy-to-lets and I really like social housing. So mainly I've just had quite a bad run when it comes to property, primarily with HMOs, so that's why I don't like them. So it's more just an emotional response than anything actually logical. And then I'm also a Forex trader. So I teach other people how to trade Forex. So I've got a company that does that, primarily actually other investors who want just an additional stream of income. I've been doing that now for over 7 years. Again, makes me feel very old. I invest in other stuff. I mean, I invest in crypto too. I buy art. You think I would invest in wine considering how much I have in my house, but it's not technically an investment. Although, I do need to get drinking. Remember that, but that's kind of what I do in property, and that's some of the other stuff I'm involved in too.
So it'd be really interested to see what's kind of traumatized you around the HMO side of things. But first off. I mean, what first attracted you to Forex? Because normally I'm talking to people about what attracted them to property and things like that. But Forex, I mean, what attracted you to that in particular?
Well, I was actually attracted to property first. I mean, I'd always had an interest in financial markets in general, but I was, in terms of starting my investment journey, I was interested in property first. And I'm glad it happened this way around, that I started in Forex and not property. But friends of mine went on a course, read a book, highlighted the book to me, told me to read it, called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki. So I signed up for one of his free seminars, went along to it about property. But when I got there, turned out I signed up for the wrong event. So I was actually signed up for the Forex event, not for the property event. So it was just one of those weird twists of fate that led me down this path first rather than property. So I loved the 2-hour seminar, or should I say sales pitch, put my hand up, ran to the back of the room, my credit card and all of that, signed up for a course, signed up at that sales pitch for the next actual course. And then 7 months later left my job. And I was attracted to it because I wanted to create passive income streams. I remember being in the kid with my parents in the car as a kid with my parents. Yeah, might want to edit that one out. So I was having a conversation with my parents, and they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I don't know, but I want to make lots of money and I don't want to work very hard," is what I said. And so I thought property was going to be that. However, property is a lot of hard work and they don't tell you that. And I thought trading was going to be that as well. And actually trading kind of is that. Now I know what I'm doing. So that first 6 months, 7 months when I was learning to trade was quite hard. I say hard work. I was following a process, so it was fine. But that's where you put your hard work in that first 7 months. Now I know what I'm doing. It's not hard work, other than from an emotional mindset management type thing. So I was just attracted because I wanted to be able to travel the world. I wanted to have a consistent income that was as passive as possible. And I say passive as possible now because I don't really believe in passive income.
No.
I think anything that you're invested in, you should have some form of oversight over, and it should require some of your time at least to maintain things and make sure things are going even my social housing properties, I do not touch bank account each month to make sure that payment's been made. But I don't technically have to do anything now, that's the most passive form of income I've got.
Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. So going back to that whole thing where you went to the Robert Kiyosaki training and it ended up being Forex, and then you said, was it quite a quick process then of you learning it, getting stuck in, going through that really tough period of a few months? How long did it take you to kind of get to the point where you quit your job after that training course?
So it took me just 7 months,
Wow.
because and I think because it was such a regimented process, and I was strict to keep to it, and I was consistent, and the style of trading that, I mean, because I ended up actually teaching for Robert, for Rich Dad Education, rather.
Okay.
So I before I launched my own training, so I know how to create that step by step precept. So principle upon principle, it's like building blocks. So if you all you have to do is know what the next brick is, and then it's easier to build up the picture or put the jigsaw piece together, whatever metaphor you want to pick, and that I'm butchering right now. So yeah, but it was just such a well laid out process with support. So whenever I had a question, I could ask that question and I had that direct feedback. But the style of trading it is as well is based upon pattern recognition and what the chart is doing from a technical perspective, rather than necessarily having to understand fundamentals of businesses and what's happening in the economies around the world. It kind of strips all that away and focuses on patterns and what happens when certain patterns occur. And that way it's actually a far quicker process, like a far quicker process. And I don't have to contend with lawyers and solicitors and all of that sort of stuff to pull their finger out and actually do what they should be doing.
Oh, that is painfully apt for us at the moment. So yeah, no, I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So I mean, so you obviously going sort of the Forex thing, it sounds like it's been going really well. And how long ago did you say you started that? 7 years ago? And then was that about
so
right?
I started that 7 years ago.
Yeah. So then consistently since then, so you started your Forex, you did the first few months of setting that up, and then have you been consistently trading in Forex that whole time, or have you kind of dipped in and out of it?
Yeah, so I have been consistent the whole time. But I would say to varying degrees of intensity. So I'm what's called a swing trader now, and I started off as a swing trader. And so a swing trader is someone who only trades for a maximum of 30 minutes. They set trades, they raise their orders, the market does its thing. They can still make 2%, 5%, 10% per month trading in that way, which is phenomenal. And that's all the way I teach it anyway, low risk. So you're only risking 1% of your account balance on each trade that you place. That's where I've been. That style of trading is where I primarily put myself, and most of my students are, because they've got other things going on. They don't want it to be their primary thing time-wise that they're doing, but they still want to have an additional stream of income. And that time frame, that low time commitment, is what allowed me to actually invest in property in the first place. Plus the capital that I was generating allowed me to be able to start investing in property as well. But I've done the day trading thing, but you need like 4 or 5 plus hours, generally speaking, to day trade. Yes, you can make good returns that way as well. However, it's not my personality type. So that's why I say in terms of intensity, there's been points in my trading career, for lack of a better term, where I've had a higher intensity and I've done day trading, but I prefer the consistency with that lower intensity swing trading, which is less than 30 minutes a day, but still making really safe and consistent profits.
Okay, that's really interesting. And you said also one of the other points you made earlier was about the kind of the mindset and emotional kind of control, I think you said as well. So you talk me through that, because I think that's something all investment types, I suppose, we all need to be kind of mindful of, not getting too carried away or buying something when everything's really hot and everything like that. So talk me through what that means in terms of Forex in particular.
Yeah, I think it is very similar to property stuff as well, because it does come down to mindset and emotional management. I think the thing with trading is you're experiencing that every single day,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just when you're looking at a deal, because you're looking at the market for an opportunity to trade every single day. You have that thing going on. So it's such a good training ground for mastering and managing your mindset and your emotions. Like, part of the reason I'm successful in property and in business is because I've had that training within the realm of Forex trading and financial markets trading. So I mean, again, it comes down to in its very basic essence, fear and greed. So a lot of people who I coach who are more decision making process, they will find it quite hard to press the button to trade when they should, to press that buy button when they should be pressing that buy button. And as a result of that, they miss out on opportunities that they should be taking just because they're too scared to actually press the button. Whereas people who are more greed based in their nature, in their personality, they'll be pressing that button far too many times, taking too many trades, more trades than they should take. And generally it doesn't work out very well for them doing that either. So it's kind of like this pendulum that you have to kind of manage and bring it into balance. And I think the way that I help people get over that is by having them get really strict on what their criteria is for a particular pattern, a particular strategy that they're applying to the market. So all the decision-making process is kind of taken out of the equation.
Okay.
And the decision-making process ends up boiling down to, does the market currently present the pattern that I'm looking for in the way that I'm looking for it to present? Yes, press the button. No, walk away.
And when you systemize it in that way, I suppose it does really help you make those decisions. And yeah, like you're saying, kind of control your emotions. So that's a really, really interesting way of doing it. So are there, I mean, we're kind of getting into it a little bit more, I suppose. Do you use programs or systems or anything in particular to be able to analyze what the market's doing? Or is it, looking at the markets or how do you?
So if people make the error of just going online to YouTube and forums to try and teach themselves how to trade Forex, which is an error, not because there's all bad information, there's some good information, but some absolutely terrible, shocking stuff out there as well. One of the things they'll come across straight off the bat is, buy this piece of software which analyzes the market in this way and tells you this straight off the bat, and so you know exactly what to do. Or buy my signal service and I'll tell you exactly when to buy and when to sell. All of that stuff is bullshit. There's all these like gizmos and gadgets and things you can buy and pay money for, which don't actually do a lot. Every single broker that I would recommend have got all the sufficient software for free within their brokerage as part of their offering for you to use their brokerage that you need in order to trade the market successfully. You don't need all these weird and wonderful gadgets and robots and machineries and things like that. It's just not required at all. Trading is a lot, can be, if you know what to do, can be a lot simpler than all of that and all that it makes it out to be.
Okay, that's really interesting. So if somebody wanted to get into Forex or some of the other, I mean, crypto or whatever, and I suppose I'm sure they're all very different. But what would you suggest? So obviously people will always go on YouTube and they will always have a look on Google and stuff like that. But in terms of learning how to successfully trade, and I suppose there's two sides to that, is that whole thing is like, either that you risk your money and you lose it and then you're done, or you don't have any success and you think, well, this is rubbish. So then you kind of back out of it, don't you? So what would you suggest people do if they're interested in Forex or crypto or anything like these?
Yeah, so I'll give a couple of answers on that, because I do get asked this fairly often.
Sure you do.
And I'll do the like mild shameless plug here.
Of course,
but like if people are like, yeah, of course. If people, and I mean, I'm a big fan of education. The only reason I'm successful at anything I've ever done is because I've had a coach and a mentor and some form of education. So I'll just say that outright from the get-go. Now, if that person is going to be me, great. If it's not going to be me, so be it, but please get some form of education. If people choose to engage with me, they like the way I present stuff, they like the fact that I'm no bullshit, I just tell you it as it is, I keep stuff simple, there's no hype around it at all or anything like that, then I have a few different options that people can connect with me on. So they can read a free ebook, which I've got, which you can access through the link in my Instagram bio. I've also got a Facebook group where I do live trainings every Tuesday night, and there's loads of previous recorded trainings in there as well. There's loads of really good free content in there. So if people want to just go online and check out some free stuff to get a taste for it, that's probably the best way to go. If you decide you want to go for it by yourself without any help whatsoever, then my best piece of advice would be to pick a broker in the UK, because then they have to be FCA regulated. Like that is go to the bottom of their website, and they'll have their registered office address. And if that's not in the UK, then don't trust them. And start with a very, very small amount of money, if not a demo account, so you can practice. And I would actually say stick to a demo account until you can show consistency with your results on that demo account before you put any money in. That is the safest way you could possibly go if you don't want to have any education. But you will more than likely, like somebody I know, end up demo trading as a result for over 5 years, because they didn't know what they didn't know, and they just kept making mistakes and didn't know what was going wrong. So don't be that person. You're just it's not worth your time.
And again, it's like that whole thing about, you know, when to pull the trigger and things like that, isn't it? And if you have somebody there, I suppose it's a lot easier. So you're saying about people, you know, demo trades or starting off with a very small amount of money. But when people want to get into it and start doing it properly, what sort of how much money do people generally start off with, or do you see people having success with?
Yeah, so I mean, my students vary massively. So, and it all depends on what you have, which is why with my community, when we talk about results, we talk about percentages. We don't talk about cash, because you could have £10,000 in your account and make 10% in a month, or like one of my students made last month 12% in a month. Still the same performance with the same decision-making process as someone who's got just £1,000 in their account. Now, one thing I always like to throw in here, because people don't seem to realize it, but trading, if you're based in the UK, if you pick the right broker and open up the right account, which is what I show people how to do, is actually tax-free, which is phenomenal. So it's a tax-free passive income stream. Well, not passive, semi-passive. So there's a massive range in terms of what you can trade with. Minimum, I would say, there was about £250-300, ranging up to one of the guys I've coached in the past is now trading with over £500,000 in his trading account.
Wow.
So you can really go wherever you want with it.
You pricked my ears up then. So it's how is it tax free?
Yeah.
Talk me through that.
This is one of the quirky things that is only the case in the UK. It's not true anywhere else in the world when it comes to investing in the financial markets. So for some reason, brokers in the UK are allowed to have a function called spread betting account, which is exactly the same as trading the financial markets for real, except for it's almost like a shadow market. Think of it that way. So you don't technically own anything when you're placing a trade. So because you don't technically own anything, the UK government have decided to qualify it as gambling, even though it's not gambling. Qualify it as gambling, and because they've qualified it as gambling, whatever profits you make are tax-free.
Wow. Well, you heard it here. Very interesting.
Which is why I say you have to pick the right broker and the right account.
That is very interesting. Okay, and I suppose for a lot of people who listen to this, I mean, people are in property, but you know, there's times in the market, especially with the hype that's been around, you know, property prices going up and things like that, and people start thinking about diversifying, or they want to wait, or they just want to diversify just because it's a sensible thing to do, to have, you know, different income streams and stuff like that. So hopefully that's helpful for some people listening. Got you thinking. It's definitely got me thinking, especially the tax-free bit. That sounds very good. So going back to your property life then. So you started off. So did you start off in I don't know, buy-to-lets, or did you dive straight into something a little bit more complicated? And when you started out, did you have any training to get yourself going?
Yes, I did have training. So obviously being a Rich Dad student for Forex initially, then a Rich Dad trainer for Forex and actually teaching for them, it would have been probably frowned upon if I didn't get training in terms of how to actually start investing in property. So I did get some training through the Rich Dad training. And I started with buy-to-let, which is what they recommend. And I moved fairly quickly up to multi-lets which then, because of the regulation changes, I had to turn one of them into an HMO, which was not a fun process.
Okay.
It went from my least favorite property to my most favorite property. So then I did. Then I've done flips as well. I've also converted houses to flats. I've not done anything commercial to residential, and I'm not really bothered about doing that either now. Now I've got enough stuff going. I don't need the headache, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. So it's something that you've obviously done a fair bit of now. And is it something you're going to continue doing, or are you focusing all of your attention on the kind of financial markets?
Well, again, so like with my own personal trading, it takes me less than 30 minutes a day. So I've got a lot of time to do other things, which is why I partly ended up launching my own training.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I got frustrated with by being part of Rich Dad is they have a very price for me felt very high compared to the amount of people I wanted to be able to help. So by launching my own thing, I could bring the price down, help more people, and kind of do it more on my own terms as well. But I will always invest in property 100%. I just am not going as hard on property as I went when I first started. I mean, I bought 10 properties in my first year, which was, let me correct myself, 18 months, because some of them had delays, but they all started within that 12 months. But yeah, first 18 months, I bought 10 properties, and made some horrendous mistakes on the way, which you only make because you're actually doing it. So I don't regret it, but they were horrendous mistakes, and big lessons learned. And I did a flip deal which didn't go particularly well whatsoever, and you can just assume what that means in terms of the profit or lack thereof, shall we say. But even that very, very painful lesson on a financial balance sheet level taught me what I actually want to do with property. And where I want it to kind of sit within my own financial overall plan, which is something I think people neglect to think about enough. It's like, okay, I'm doing this. Where does that all sit within my overall financial goals, my overall financial aims? So often when I do mentorships, that's one of the conversations we have is that, okay, well, you want to do trading, but where does that fit? Like in the grand scheme of what you want to do, where do you want to take it to? How is that then going to filter into property purchasing, property investment, other types of investment, and even down to like questions around time wise, what they want to do with their family and their kids and everything like that, if they've got kids. So yeah, I mean, I don't have kids, but it's still something I think about for the future. Well, I don't have any kids that I know of anyway. But yeah, it's something I think about for the future is, what do I want to be doing with my time? Am I on the journey of creating that as a reality, or am I actually taking myself further away? And that's probably a question I ask myself every few months. And if I'm having a particularly bad week, every day, is this really what I've made my life to be? Is this really what I want to be? Do I really want to buy another property, which is going to take me 9 months as a simple buy to let to get through flipping lenders and all of that crap? Do I want to do this? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think this is I think a lot of the time, it's a new strategy or a strategy that's quite popular and people jump on it. I'm thinking of serviced accommodation, for example, and a lot of people make a lot of money from it and have great success, but it's very time consuming. It's a business in its own right and things like that. So
yeah. And I don't consider it investing.
No,
and this, I mean, people feel free to disagree with me here, but for me, investing is you own it. Do you mean I invest my money into that? I own that thing. Serviced accommodation, if you own it, is an investment. But if you're doing rent to serviced accommodation, it's not at all. Or rent to rent, another one. I would never touch it because it's not ownership. There's too many pitfalls as a result for me because of the lack of ownership.
Yeah, it's one of those things that rent to rent we've looked at a couple of times, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult to find a deal. It's one thing, and also the reason we were looking at it is because of the kind of money issue in terms of raising capital and things like that. But yeah, I agree completely. I think it's one of those decisions people make because of lack of funds or to try and diversify or something along those lines. But I agree. It's not really an investment at all. It's another kind of related business. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
it's not an investment. I'd agree with that completely. So,
yeah, yeah.
but getting back to what we were talking about. So, but one of the things that I think is interesting, because you've got a lot of experience in property and you've got a lot of experience in the financial trade and Forex and everything like that. So if you were to compare the two, and I know they both kind of serve different functions and they kind of take up different amounts of time and things like that. But if you were to put one next to the other, how would you kind of look at them in terms of the time you put into them, the stress, the whatever else, the
Yeah.
how do they look next to each other?
When I compare them, and I often do because I do both of them, I if I just look at them on paper, I think I'm an absolute madman for investing in property when I could just trade and make the money and the returns that I make. If you're looking at just a pure percentage returns that you can expect, even as a ridiculously low bar, you can expect from trading once you know what you're doing. And this is incredibly low bar, 2% per month, tax free as well. Don't forget that on whatever money you invest. If I think about that return, 24% non-compounded, which is about 27% compounded on an annual basis. If I was to take all the money I've invested in property and use that as a low bar, what my pot of money would look like now compared to what it looks like within property, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And less stress, no people to worry about, lower risk in one sense, because I'm only risking 1% of my account per trade that I take. Don't have to worry about estate agents, don't have to worry about dodgy tenants, don't have to worry about void periods, don't have to worry about a dodgy sourcing agent not doing the job they said they were going to do, dodgy refurbs and having to redo refurbs. I don't know if anyone out there has had to redo a refurb. I definitely have.
Oh, wow, no, but,
all of that sort of terrible stuff and all the pitfalls that come with property, because with trading it's just me and the market, my knowledge, my skill, and the emotional management that comes with that. So I definitely do prefer trading 100%. But if something was to happen to me, say I was to lose my sight, I wouldn't be able to trade. So from a diversification perspective, I see property as where I store the wealth that I make through trading and through my business and through everything else I do, which will take care of me if anything was to happen or into later life. I mean, I'm technically financially free from trading. I'm also technically financially free through property. So I've got that nice balance and ability to have that freedom. Should anything happen or one thing happen to the other one.
Well, it's because it is very capital intensive property, and a lot of the time you have to leave a good chunk of it in the property, and eventually you'll access it or make it back or whatever. But it sounds like with what you're doing in the financial markets, you can take 1% of that every, however often you want to trade, and it makes you a good return. So yeah, really interesting.
Yeah.
So,
and it's way more liquid. So if you needed the money for a property deal, you take it out and you put it into a property. I mean, I've absolutely rinsed my trading account in the past because I needed to make ends meet on a particular property deal, which is this part of the process. Or if you've got a property deal which you sell or whatever, and then you've got loaded capital, but you've got a waiting period between that deal and the next deal, it's dead money. So what you can do, and I've done it in the past, is take that money, put it into my trading account, trade off of it, get far better returns on that than I would do if it was just sat in the bank, because we all know how terrible that is. And then once the money is needed for the deal, because it's liquid, it's just in my trading account, I can get it out often within 24 hours and have it back in my main bank account.
Yeah, no, it sounds really interesting. And it's things like that as well, because there are gaps, between property deals, and while you're waiting for one property to refinance, to put out some of the money from that to clump together for, another deal. And there are periods where money's just sat in the bank, and we invest, don't we? So we know how rubbish, the savings rates are. But if you can make some extra while you're waiting for the next opportunity, why not? It sounds like a great idea.
Yeah,
pretty great idea.
Yeah.
So it's really, really interesting. And I think a lot of people are really interested in different opportunities. And one of the things that I think, because it's been getting a lot of press for the last little while, is crypto. I think you also invest in crypto. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So similar sort of thing. So, you know, did you have training regarding that in particular, or did you use what you learned from Forex and the kind of contacts you've made, or anything like that, to start investing in crypto? How did you get into that?
Yeah, so I did do I did get some education on it, because I believe in education.
Yeah.
And I've got some very good friends who are very heavily involved in crypto. Now, the skills that I've learned in terms of trading and understanding market patterns and market conditions, that is actually applicable to crypto as well. So what we call technical analysis, I can apply that technical analysis skill to crypto markets as well, which is why a lot of my students who came in who learned about Forex now also applied those same skills to crypto. Yeah. Or to stocks or to shares or to whatever it is they're choosing to invest in from a financial markets perspective. I've also got people who are primarily interested in crypto, but they want to understand the technical analysis side of that. And so they go through my training because that's what it does. It teaches them how to understand the technical analysis side. Yeah. So there is a lot of similarities, but they are different markets as well, in the same way that different to commodities, which is different to indexes. There is definite differences between them. And I would say if you want to invest in crypto, just be aware that it's not as tested a market. It doesn't have the same history, and it doesn't behave in that same way because it's not as large a market either. So it's as a result of all those things, it's way more volatile than Forex, indexes, stocks and shares, and commodities.
And also, you know, Elon Musk puts out a tweet or something like that, and it bombs, or it goes crazy. Yeah. So yeah, it does have that additional kind of volatility, you know, that a lot of people would have been kind of reading about on the internet and stuff. So yeah, okay, that's really interesting. So again, yeah, really interesting, and I think it's something that a lot of people I've seen on a lot of forums and you know, on sites and stuff like that. A lot of people seem to be really interested in Forex, crypto, and everything like that, who are you know, people who invest in property. So hopefully this episode will kind of open people's eyes, you know, to, you know, what to do and what to look out for and everything. So if people want to come to you, obviously we'll put links in the show notes, but so it's just talk me through. So you have the free ebook and the Facebook group and everything like that, but you have courses as well, don't you? So talk me through basically what that would kind of look like.
So I won't call it I wouldn't call it courses, because that would suggest you buy this one and then oh, by the way, you've got to buy this one. Oh, and by the way, there's this one after that. Yeah, it's not that. I hate all of that shite. It's this is the course. This is what you get. It takes you from zero to hero. It covers all the bases of what you need to know to become a successful trader, understanding the markets, understanding how to take all the components of the markets to create strategy criteria. So you actually know how to create your own strategies if that's what you want to do. But if you don't want to create your own strategies, you can't be bothered to reinvent the wheel, and why should you? Then you can take any of our 4 strategies or all of our 4 strategies, which you learn all of them across the course. Not only do you learn how to do that, but you'll be taught how to do what's called back testing of strategies, where we track about 15 different criteria on every trade that we place, both from a back testing analysis perspective, but also a future trading, so live trading, because as markets change over time, you want to be able to know what is working and isn't working within this different strategies. So how do you know that if you don't know what to track and you don't know what to test? So it's called you a trader in your own right for the rest of your life. So once you actually master the skill, you don't need anybody else. It's you and the market, and that's it. And that's why I basically want to do myself out of a job. Now, on top of the course, the only other options you've got is the level of coaching or mentorship that you want, and there's varying options for that as well. I do also now have a funded account option as part of the top tier mentorship, but the course in terms of what you actually learn is the same. It's just, again, that level of support that you want and hand-holding you want through the process that changes depending on what package you go for.
That sounds good. That sounds really interesting. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really interesting. Hopefully, as I say, hopefully some people will have got some, real benefit from this, because I know people are always looking at different ways to diversify. And I know that it's a bit of a hot topic at the moment, especially crypto, but obviously Forex as well. I think you've provided some really, really helpful information there. So yeah, thank you again for coming on. It's been great. And, I think I'll probably speak to you after this. So thank you again.
Sounds brilliant. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, I hope you can agree that episode was really interesting. If that whets your appetite, please go and check out his free ebook. But for now, that's it from me. Best of luck, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have, please leave me a 5-star review to help other people find it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.